I mean, if I can get you out of that phone you're addicted to.
I'm not addicted to it.
I understand why you would be addicted to it. Why wouldn't you be addicted to the phone? If anyone had told me at any point in my life, hey, there's something you can hold in your hands and have access to all of the wisdom anyone's ever had throughout history, would you like to have that in your hand?
Yeah, that's not what's in the phone, though.
I don't think. I'm assuming, as always, that it's porn. But why is it that you have been talking about a ramen prank?
Yeah.
I don't understand why it is that I don't know what you're talking about.
Yeah. So first of all, I'd like to point out that you remind me of something that happened to me when I was way back when working in the front office in Phoenix. I remember we were having a meeting, and the owner of the team, Robert Sarver's there, and he's talking, and I'm taking notes on my phone. And he said, "Get off that damn phone." And I'm like, "I'm working. I'm engaging with what we're doing here." So you ask me about this ramen thing, and I'm pulling it up on my phone so I can give exact details, and you're like, "If I can get you away from your phone," like I'm playing Pocket Monster over here. Sorry, I'm actually working here.
Would that be an erroneous accusation most times that you're distracted by something in your phone? This time you happen to be working,
It's
but you
always
came in
working.
here
I'm always
saying
working,
today that you'd rather be in salt mines.
No, I said I am in a salt mine right now. I've been sent back to the salt mine, and now you can see. Now all my fellow salt miners out there are like, "Oh, okay, now I see it."
You have notes on this ramen prank
do.
you're talking about?
I do.
Well, that sounds natural and organic.
Well, I mean, look, man, just because I'm prepared doesn't mean I can't be organic.
I love how there are certain shots where you can't see the first word in Amin's shirt, and it just says drink, as if he's just giving advice to everybody watching.
Well, I kind of am giving
The
advice.
rest of the shirt also gives that advice.
Same
to drink,
advice.
drink, not
More
drink.
specific, yeah.
Day drink.
So this happened in Australia, and there's a YouTuber who did this prank. He set up this very fancy-looking restaurant. He called it Nisei Jangara Ramen, with Nisei actually meaning fake in Japanese, but nobody knew. So these people all lined up. He invited all of these influencers and, kind of TikTok people. Hey, you got to come. This is the soft launch for this very, very exclusive high-end ramen restaurant. And so then they went in there, and everyone was encouraged to post about it. And they were like, "Oh my God, 10 out of 10. This is the best ramen I've ever had. It tastes authentic." It's like, it reminds me of when I was in Thailand and I was backpacking through Phuket, and there was a little ramen place. They did all that stuff as they do. I don't know if the algorithm has you in this way, Dan, online. For me on TikTok, it's a lot of food stuff. A lot of, hey, I went to visit this restaurant in, South Detroit, and it had the best wings ever, or whatever, So there's a lot of this content. And all these people went out and they posted these platitudes. And then it turns out the ramen that they served was none other than Top Ramen. They just made Top Ramen and then plated it and then served it. And all of these people fell for the old banana in the tailpipe. In the same way, Dan, that it was like 4 or 5 years ago. Do you guys remember this in Philadelphia?
Payless.
Yes, Payless, but they spelt it Peilis with a line over the I or whatever.
An umlaut, an umlaut in there. What is the Payless? I don't know this story.
Same story. They made what was Payless shoes and made them seem like they were designer shoes, and everybody was coming in and complimenting all the gear and buying it and paying ridiculous prices for it. And then the reveal, hey, you just bought Payless shoes.
Yep. I didn't know that there were high-end ramen places.
I didn't know it got better than Top Ramen.
What?
I didn't know that. I'm not an aficionado of ramen, so I didn't know. Am I the only one who's ignorant here? Put it on the poll, please, Juju, at LeBatardShow. Did you know there was high-end ramen?
There's high-end everything, Dano.
It's elevated. No, high-end ramen is a thing for sure. If you go, I think this might be because the Asian population here is not as robust as it is.
Yeah, South Florida does not have a great ramen situation. Yeah. Like D.C. was the first place where I had amazing ramen, and I was like, wow, there's a whole category of food I didn't know about.
D.C., New York, very much so California,
We
Bay
have good
Area.
pho.
Yeah.
Derivative.
I don't know. I don't think you guys give a pho out here.
That's not a joke that's ever made with the word pho.
No? I went too far?
Is
No,
it?
no.
Is it?
You've gone too far.
You rescued it. It is not true, right? That Evian is the urban myth that Evian started as tricking dumb people with the idea that they'd buy bottled water and it's naive spelled backwards. Like that's not.
I mean, it
something-
is that.
Right. It is.
naive.
It
That
is
is
naive.
true.
That's not a rumor. That is true.
But isn't that the same thing that happened kind of with Liquid Death? They decided to make a water that looked like a can of energy drink, and it would absolutely kill, and it has.
You know what's funny? This reminds me of. Do you guys know Blur, the group Blur?
Yeah, where's this going?
Like Song 2?
Yeah.
Right? Yeah, that's their most popular song ever. Apparently, it was a lark. They wrote it like, oh, all music is dumb now. Like the music that they make, people weren't like savvy enough to. So in order to mock like the music that was dominating of the day, they made that song, and it turned out to be their biggest song ever.
I had this experience recently with a song called The Hillbillies by Baby Keem and Kendrick Lamar. I had no idea that this was just a mockery of Drake. They did his song in complete Drake style, basically copied a beat and rapped like they were themselves, but absolutely a Drake type of rap. There's a line in there, it just blew my mind because, we talk about Drake and all the stuff that Kendrick is saying, oh, he likes minors and all that stuff. There's a line in there from Baby Keem. He says, Messi, get them girls off the stage because somebody's going to get taken. Somebody's going to invade on your one-on-one conversations, meaning like FBI. And I was just jaw-dropped. I was like, he was telling everybody way before all this, and that's what he were doing, just mocking Drake in that song, which, by the way, banger.
I want to get to some Olympic stuff here in a second, but do we know if Haagen-Dazs is it a foreign ice cream?
No.
or
From
is-
Jersey.
It's Haagen-Dazs is a completely made up. It does not mean anything. They just wanted to make a word that looked and sounded like it was Scandinavian, and people fell for it.
sounded fancy, sounded gourmet.
Scandinavian, right? Like, oh, this ice cream isn't. You think this is like Breyers? No, this comes from the glaciers
Straight
of
from
Norway.
the Swiss Alps.
Yeah, from the fjords, right? And like, oh, this is Haagen-Dazs. Can you pronounce it Haagen-Dazs? Yes, you can. Okay, you can have some of the
That's more
Haagen-Dazs.
Austrian.
Yes, but what are you talking about?
Tony, is it indeed from New Jersey?
My bad, Minneapolis.
All right, put it on the former home of Anthony Edwards. Put it on the
Yeah.
poll, please, at LeBatardShow. Did you know that Haagen-Dazs was made in Minneapolis? Let's get to Tony's top 5 Olympic moments, shall we?
Wow, we are back, Dano.
Yeah.
By the way, if hydrating were an Olympic sport, you would win the gold. Get 20% off your first order, Liquid IV, when you go to liquidiv.com and use code Dan at checkout. So we're going to do a little something different because we did top 5 moments earlier this week. This is going to be the Olympic top 5 superstars in the making. That's the top 5 list. Superstars in the making. We're just going to start with number 5. Somebody that Izzy was very excited I put on this list. Sprinter Gabby Thomas.
Oh, my goodness.
You were-
Gabby Thomas is an absolute superstar. A Harvard grad. She's like the long, like beautiful runner and
Gold medalist, too?
Gold medalist in the 200. Now, there's Sharika, I forget her last name, from Jamaica, who wasn't in this 200, who might also compete with her. But these two women might actually touch FloJo's 200-meter world record, which was a number that, we've been talking about for 40 years, that why is that still alive? And they're actually coming close to it. Gabby Thomas is going to be a superstar.
Number 4, another Izzy favorite, Quincy Hall.
This guy. All right, look, if you missed the 400 meters yesterday, I've never seen a more pained face on a runner through about 300 meters. I was like, that guy is going to fade. That guy turned that ugly face into the most remarkable comeback, won gold, and I have a theory on him why he was showing that ugly face. He's got a gorgeous grill. And he was just like, I'm about to show you how I'm going to come get this 400-meter medal, and it looks like he doesn't know how to run. This guy is spectacular. Wait till he learns how to run.
Sprinting expert Izzy Gutierrez.
And enthusiastic.
Number 3, women's rugby player Ilona Marr. Of the stiff arm and of, not the bronze, I think they won. First time
They
ever.
walk-off for a
Walk
bronze
off.
medal.
It wasn't her. Alex Cedric, I think, was the one who did the walk-off, but she was part of the team. Biggest player on that team, TikTok star. She's going to become super famous now,
Is
too.
this happening throughout sports talk where many people are talking enthusiastically and they have to say, I forget somebody's name,
Of course.
or that person from over there that represents that dramatic
A
moment?
lot of names in the Olympics,
It's
Dan.
usually
A lot
somebody
of
from
names.
another country. I'm sorry.
Alex Cedric is the one that scored the walk-off touchdown, by the
Quick
way.
question, Tony. Was she a TikTok star before the Olympics, or has she become one now?
She was a TikTok star. Well, in Tokyo in 2020 when they had those Olympics.
Okay.
She was one of the first people to like comment on the beds, and like when TikTok
Got
was really
it.
starting off, she built her brand there. But now she's kind of household with not only the clips that she's putting on tape in the actual games, but then what she's doing online as well.
Izzy, you don't have to apologize for that. I feel like everyone is doing that right now, that we have sort of mainlined 2 weeks of sports, and we're all learning a lot of names.
No, I'm agreeing with you. I'm apologizing directly to Sharika Jackson.
92 countries, imagine. There's a lot of people to know. Number 2, another Izzy favorite. Wow, Izzy dominated this list. Noah Lyles.
I mean, there's so much pressure on this guy, first of all. And did you see in the warm-ups where he just jumps over everybody? He just brings his knees to his head, and his feet are level with everybody else's head. It's crazy. He's kind of like a good athlete.
What time is he running?
Tonight, our time or
15:25,
Paris
I
time.
think.
I believe it's about 15:25, yeah.
Number 1, there is only one answer. I'm going to crumble this up and throw it at the... Bam. It's the Turkish shooter guy. Number 1 superstar, the Turkish shooter. He's incredible. I don't even know his name. Don't need to know his name. Jeans, glasses, untucked shirt, just air pistol right at the mark, win a silver medal. Guy was on the couch smoking a cigarette 3 months ago. Like, I could do that.
3 months ago.
Can I
And they
give you an
brought him up.
OLI? I know it's backwards, but I got to give you an OLI, and it's Kenneth Rooks, okay? He won the silver in the steeplechase. Dan, I spent about a full hour mocking the steeplechase 2 days earlier, and then I saw the men's final. Holy was that action-packed. There was this gentleman. If there was anybody from these Olympics who would star in sort of a Borat remake, it's this guy, this glorious-looking Moroccan who just, like, dominates the steeplechase. He's won the last Olympics, the last 2 world championships. And then there's this American, Kenneth Rooks. He just comes from the outside, and there's, like, a Kenyan dude who looks at him like, who the hell is this guy? And he's just coming hard. Giggity. And then we're pushing, right? And then there's this other guy who's like elbowing the Olympic champion, and then he gets in front of him. What happens to that guy? He hits the next steeple, goes down like he got shot, and then the American is still on the outside, who just comes barreling in gloriously. It's the Borat-looking MFer, and he wins another gold. But the U.S. guy finishes in second, holds off the third place guy. Holy cow, I was out of breath, and I was so worried about the dude who fell down.
Izzy is sweating. His enthusiasm is soaking his shirt.
Afternoons in my house are lit this week.
I've got the Dictator, the Borat. I've got Sacha Baron Cohen in The Dictator jumping in steeplechase. I will apologize to the audio audience here as I want to show Izzy and Tony and Mike Ryan and Amin a baseball pitch that I find fundamentally unfair. Aroldis Chapman, the Cuban pitcher who now, anybody want to guess where Aroldis Chapman is now? He's played for a lot of teams. He throws, I thought, 103 and 104 miles an hour, but the pitch I'm about to show you is 105 miles an hour. I can't believe he's still throwing that hard, but anybody want to take a guess at where Aroldis Chapman is now playing?
St. Louis?
Myrtle Beach Merman.
Is he a Royal?
He is a Pittsburgh Pirate, and
I'm learning he's still throwing.
And my fifth guess.
I want to show you this pitch. It's inside corner at the knees, and watch Manny Machado's reaction to 105 miles an hour inside corner at the knees. They just laugh at each other because they know how absurd they're like, what are you, that's right, Tony. What are you supposed to do with that?
What do you want me to do with that one?
That's Manny Machado. That is a Hall of Famer looking at him, and he's giving him sort of the Michael Jordan shrug after making 6 threes against Portland, where it's like, come on. What is that? They laugh in each other's faces at the absurdity of trying to hit that baseball.
And Chapman was already posing, and he still looked at him like, yeah, no, you deserve that.
What's the closest equivalent to this? Is it Chris Gatling dapping up Sean Kemp after he dunked on him? Like Sean Kemp dunks on Chris Gatling,
Whatever happened to those moments?
In basketball, where you just have to be awed by the guy who did it to you, and you're just like, I lose. That's Manny Machado. I'm pretty sure he's a Hall of Famer. I haven't looked at the numbers, but I think of him as a Hall of Famer. For him to laugh at the absurdity of not being able to hit a pitch from a guy who's a journeyman who now pitches for the Pittsburgh Pirates.
It's almost like when Steph hit the dagger 3 from basically half court against the Thunder. It's like, oh, okay, he's just way better.
Dan, they've been showing these angles. Sorry about my Olympic renaissance here, but they've been showing these angles of these indoor volleyball serves, and it's ridiculous. Like, it's coming at you at 80 miles per hour. It takes a hard hook to the left, and I don't know how those people pass that thing.
Izzy, I'll tell you the volleyball thing that I got was beach volleyball. I've watched it a couple Olympics now, maybe 3 or 4. And every time everyone serves the same way. They throw it up and they kind of spike it, whatever. There's this one dude for Italy. He wears a hat. He's a short, stocky dude. He's built like George Costanza. And his service is like, it's like the Ephus pitch. Yeah, he just slaps the shit out of it and it goes like 70 meters into the sky and then drops on the other side. And it's like the accuracy with which he's getting it in play every single time, despite it looks like the most asshole-ish just, let me just send it up to the sky.
It's so difficult to do as a server. It's so difficult to do. Passing it, even more difficult. Like, you just have to sit there and be patient with it, and hopefully it just doesn't knuckle and hit you in the nose.
Speaking of George Costanza, guys, I had a moment a couple of weeks ago that I felt like George Costanza, and that can mean a lot of things, right?
Yes.
George is a lot of things to a lot of people. But me and my wife's pregnant, we like to go on walks after to kind of get the digestion thing moving. Kind of blocks things up when you're pregnant. So we go for a walk around where we used to live, around Dayland Mall. So we'll do a nice little lap around the mall. And it's getting to be dusk, so it's about like maybe 8 o'clock. We finish dinner, we're walking around, we're just talking back and forth. And this lady with this little dog walks up to us, kind of on the back end of Dayland Mall, and she's like, "Do you guys know about owls?" And again,
Are they free?
Just absolutely no context. She just comes up to us and says that, and I'm quick with. So I'm like, "Ma'am, I was an owlologist. I studied owls in college. I'm very excited about owls. Did you know that they don't, when they flap their wings, they don't make any noise?" So I started giving her a couple owl tips. They can turn their head 360. It's incredible.
You said owlologist, didn't you?
Yeah, no, 100%. And that's why, because I was like saying it as, I don't know what the actual term is or whatever. And she looks at me, she goes, "My God, thank you." And I look and I'm like, "Yeah, of course, no problem, whatever." She turns over and she goes, "There's an owl right there and I think it's hurt." And I'm like, "Where?" She moves over and there's like a barn owl, like this big with a hurt wing. And I'm looking at it, I'm like,
did you stare?
Definitely, I go, "Definitely a barn owl. Let me go take a look at that." My wife like grabs me. She's like, "Do not touch it." He's like, "Ma'am, he is a liar. He is not an owlologist. That's not even a real word."
Tony, did you not stare into the eye of the mighty fish?
I walked up to it, and as I started walking up to it, I was a little fearful because it started hopping, and I was like, "Oh, I don't know what you're gonna do."
Please
here.
let this be a golf ball lodged somewhere in the owl.
No golf ball lodged in the owl. But the moment that lady turned around,
Titleist?
and I looked down, and I see the owl, just all the blood left my body. I was just like, I am not about to touch this owl. I don't know what it has. I don't know if the towns are going to scratch me. I don't know anything about owls, ma'am. But the fact that she turned around and that owl was there, it made me think I may never want to do the expert thing ever again. Which is tough because I love doing that to people.
No, you keep doing it, and then when you see the owl, then you bail.
I mean, what are the odds it's going to happen again?
That's what I think until something else. Are you whatever? And I'm like, yes, of course. I've studied it my whole life. And then it's like, I heard.
Your pregnant wife betrayed you in that moment?
Instantly.
And she instantly told the woman he knows nothing about owls. He just made up a word, owlologist.
It's like,
Bad teammate.
He knows nothing about owls. She also hit me with a chicken wing in the rib, too, which I was like, ah. She's like, he knows nothing about owls, ma'am. So then I had to spend the next 30 minutes of the walk. My wife was like, "You're going to do something for that owl." And I was like, "What do you want me to do with the owl? Like, I can't help it." She's like, "You're going to call humane societies. You're going to start doing stuff." So I had to sit there on my phone in this walk looking at Miami-Dade humane societies. It's 8 o'clock. They're not there. Nobody's there. I can't call like, "Hey, guys, there's an owl at Dayland Mall. I don't know what to do with it."
Animal rescue. Just find the animal rescue, because that's the 24 hours. They come in there and they grab it. Now, they might kill the owl. Like, that's not up to me, though.
Well, you've done your part.
No, they're not going to kill the owl.
No?
You never know. No, well, they may kindly euthanize it depending on what's going on.
Destroy the owl.
Again, I think it was a wing because it was kind of like, you know how when the birds have their wings like tucked in, they're good. This one was kind of out, which again kind of gave me a creep. I didn't like it, so I ended up walking away. But somewhere, some humane society here in Miami has a voicemail from me because my wife made me leave it, saying like, "Hey guys, anonymously, there's an owl at Dayland Mall who's hurt.
Anonymously?
Yeah, I don't wanna give
what
my
are you
name,
worried about
just
in
in
this
case
scenario?
you look me up like, hey, there's no owl there, buddy."
Tony, quick question. Was the owl
This is a guy that keeps taking ducks. We got him.
Was the owl sleepy?
Owl was not sleeping.
Because it was dusk, so I feel like, owls are nocturnal, Dan. I don't know if you know this. So it's like you come at dusk, it's like, for us, it's like dawn.
It's
like,
usually a problem if you see one in the daytime.
Still kind of like a little
I don't know.
rusty.
I'm not an owlologist.
There's a show hypothetical that happened to a friend of a friend, let's call it. There was my partner Anthony, his broker. Like,
Okay.
They own a boat. We're down in Key West during the storm. a black bag full of cocaine
No way.
floated into their boats. I will give you one guess as to what they did.
They had the party of their lives.
They called the cops immediately.
The authorities,
nerds.
Dan. Can you imagine that? The authorities?
I mean, if they would have called Anthony first, you might never see me again. We did the math on this. It's about $2 million worth of cocaine in there.
Oh, wow.
You have to return that.
you don't have to do
Well,
that.
Says who?
You don't have to do it.
Well, you're guilty of a crime if you do not.
I didn't know what was in it.
If you get, if
Well, they actually asked
Bingo.
them, hey, did you keep any for yourselves? And all they had to do was say, nope.
See?
what a great criminal defense. That'll surely work in a courtroom. I didn't know what was in it. Not guilty. That would.
Get me as your lawyer. I'll
Didn't
get
Dave Chappelle do that? I did not know I wasn't supposed to do that.
Put it on the poll, please, Juju, at LeBatardShow. Would you return $2 million worth of cocaine that floated into your boat? And also put on the poll, is kindly euthanize redundant? Because I don't know if it is or not.
If the creature is in pain.
If it's not kind, it's murder.
Yeah. Can you unkindly euthanize is the question.
I think of euthanization.
Don't offer up any last words.
As an act. You're aspiring to kindness when you're euthanizing.
Yeah, especially
something.
with animals.
But that's
humans. It's Dr. Kevorkian. It's complicated. Although there are these pods.
I would think that Tony, I would think that you should do the most that you can to help that owl, but I understand you not wanting to touch it. My Valerie was late to our first date because she came upon a bird in a similar situation, and she took it to a place that rescues birds nearby.
You believe that?
It's a good excuse if it
can't-
wasn't true.
I, for one, can't believe that Tony did that. Not the whole owl thing, just like answer a stranger's question in Miami. If someone asked me, do you know anything about owls? I don't know. Like, I just keep moving.
I was feeling good that day. I was like, let me do a little joke here for
Let
my
me be
wife.
kind to my neighbor, and then now look what happened. to you.
Owlologist. Now I got to touch a dirty owl. I don't want to touch a dirty
If she
owl.
asked me, do you know anything about owls? I would have been like, Tom Herman's coaching there now. I don't know.
I was walking my dog at 5 o'clock this morning, and a woman came up to me, and the dog starts barking at her, and she asks me, pointing to the beach. It's still very dark, obviously. Is it safe out there? And I'm looking at her, and I'm like, you're in Miami. Man. I'm like, there's nothing safe in the dark out here. Like, there's nothing out here.
What is it about the ocean that it gets like substantially more dangerous the moment the lights go out? Because you go to the beach, right? You're walking around. There's nothing there. You're just kind of hanging out. The moment it gets dark, everything's there,
when,
just waiting for you to come
That's when
in.
a lot of predators feed.
Do they?
Yeah, with darks, with sharks. I call them darks. Yeah.
Some people call them predators too.
Sharks, you were trying to say. Keep it moving.
Yeah, keeping it moving. But yeah, sharks. They tell you if you're afraid of sharks, stay out of the water during dusk and dawn. Those hours in particular, when visibility is also bad because you can have mistaken identity. I'm here for your service, folks.
Put it on the poll at LeBatardShow. Is the ocean terrifying at night? And
I also used to avoid wearing yellow because when I was growing up, they would call that yum yum yellow. But then Mythbusters for Shark Week special in the early aughts, they busted that one.
You guys thought as kids that sharks like yellow things?
It was yum yum yellow, dude. Like there's a lot of education on sharks. Man, I just can't. Now I made it a coach of Texas.
Well, I think you've been. I
There's a lot of
understand
education on
if you would be afraid and leaking confidence since
Calling them
sharks.
darks. Yeah, not my proudest moment.
Do bulls see red?
Big
Is that
problem
also
down
a
here.
myth, or is that real?
There
No,
are
that-
bull sharks, and they sometimes don't care. Yeah, I know that you're not a fish. I don't care. I'm hungry.
That's not a myth, Tony. That is why matadors, the capes are red, because that is something that they use. I would say that one of the unsafest places on our beaches, if you want to make sure to keep your property at night, is outside of Live, which is right on the ocean, where it is a maneuver by beautiful people in Live to lure the party outside so that everybody goes into the water not wearing the clothes, and everything that gets left inside the clothes, wallets and whatnot, gets stolen
ransacked
by people who are working in coordination with the beautiful people inside of Live. It's a crime factory.
Did you see on 10th Street on South Beach, which is right by our old Clevelander, there was a saltwater crocodile on
No
the shore?
way.
Yeah.
No way. All the good stuff happens after we leave.
Good
A
stuff.
lot of bad stuff has happened too.
Well, it happened while we were there.
yeah, but it's not like bad stuff's not bad.
I want to go back to this crime syndicate with beautiful people, and presumably ugly people are doing the stealing, right? Like you're not going to waste a beautiful person going for wallets, right?
He's right. You need him in the club.
they're the
They're the
bait,
break.
right?
They're the breakers. They're like, "Hi, everybody, watch this. Let's go."
I like that. I'm imagining a meeting, right? Like there's a one guy walking around, everyone's sitting around the table. You're probably wondering why I called you all here today. Says, all right, this is what we're gonna do. You, beautiful people, go to the club, have a good time, drink, lure them outside into the water. You, ugly people, wait until they're in the water, then grab the stuff. I'll be back here at HQ making sure everything goes all right.
It's a good crime move, we'll agree, right? Everyone can agree that you can see tourists falling for that every time. Man, this is the luckiest night of my life. I can't believe this beautiful person wants to skinny dip with me at 1 o'clock in the morning. What a great night in Miami. All of my things are gone when I get to shore.
If you just heeded my advice, you'd stay out of the water at that time.
The number of things people will do because someone beautiful asked them to do it is staggering. The number of dumb things in particular. We reviewed this movie on Cinephobe called Mike and Dave Need Wedding Dates, right?
Oh, not a fan.
Yeah.
That's what Cinephobe does. Although you have Law-Abiding Citizen on there this week, and that
This
movie
week-
Banger.
Oh, my God,
That's
yeah.
a banger.
rocks.
File.
That scene in the courtroom where he goes off on the judge. Wow. Wow. That's
Goosebumps.
That's a great movie.
I don't like Gerard Butler. I heard you the other day say P.S. I Love You is a movie you cried at. I was like, are you out of your mind?
I might have been.
But this movie, I was like, I don't like him, but man, I had to hand it to him. Acted his ass off.
Really? How is he with the accent in that one? I don't
Terrible.
remember. He's
His
always
accent's
bad with
terrible.
it.
His
It's
accent-
a tough one. It's a very strong
It always
accent.
sounds like he's eating something.
Yeah,
while they're talking.
you got the lip right there.
Yeah. But Mike and Dave Need Wedding Dates, right? In it, there's a scene where the two, Adam Devine and
Is it Zac Efron?
Zac Efron, yeah. They've got
That was a weird pull thing that he had, huh?
yeah. They
Moving
had
on.
they had Aubrey Plaza and Anna Kendrick as their dates, right? And so the girls are really great on ATVs, and they do like these weird stunts, or they jump off a ramp or whatever. And then the guys are expected to do in kind when all they wanted to do was go to Jurassic Park or whatever. So my question at the time was, what's the dumbest thing you've ever done to impress a date? Like, or someone beautiful? Like, would it be running into the ocean and leaving all your clothes on the beach outside of Live? Would it be riding an ATV and trying to jump over a ramp, even though
Do you have a nominee here? Because you're going to make me go through a data bank here.
And does it have to be one singular act, or can it be like over the course of a few days?
Over the course of a few days. If it increases in dumbness, that's even better. I love those types of stories. I feel like everyone has a version of this where it's like you would never do this, but because this beautiful person asked you, you're like, okay, I'll do
In
it.
6th grade, I lip sync "Girl on TV" by LFO. Still gives me the heebie-jeebies.
LFO, is that New Kids on the Block?
Had a bunch of hits.
Chinese food makes me sick.
Really unfortunate story behind that band. They're basically cursed.
Are they?
Yeah, I think just like F is around.
Yeah. Cursed by making bad music.
I mean, come on, it's too soon. Like 2 of them perished.
Really?
Yeah.
Well, they made bad
Terminally.
music. They made bad
Illness.
bad music before that happened, though.
Yes.
Yeah, there you go. Tony, I feel like you've done some stuff.
I've been with my wife since 2009. So
but early on, you did not do anything dumb to impress her?
Yes, and the one story that I think of is at my parents' house they have like a little kind of like roof outside in the backyard. There's like a roof that connects from the regular like triangled roof, so like kind of like a gazebo roof kind of thing. Not super sturdy, but sturdy enough that you can walk around on it and do things if you need to do work on it. So the second Valentine's Day I think we had together.
There it is.
That's
I was
February
like,
14th.
yeah.
man.
And I was like, you know what I think I can do up there? I think I could put a table up there with chairs, and we can have dinner on the roof and like
that's nice.
see the stars.
That's
It's
dumb.
very nice, right? So I take the table, right? I take it up. I have a buddy of mine help me. We put it up on the roof. It works. I'm like, okay, I think we're good here. We both sat on the chairs. It worked, whatever. And I was like, man, so how am I going to get her onto the roof without spoiling the surprise of, hey, we're here on the roof?
Wow, this one's tricky.
This is a very tricky one. So my 20 or 17-year-old brain is like, you know what we can do? It's a good idea. We can blindfold her.
Oh my God.
And then we can take her up the roof via a ladder on another roof that we can climb up the triangle part,
no.
down the
Oh
triangle
my
part,
God.
into the roof, right? Long story short, we go pick up dinner. I don't remember where. I have her blindfolded. I'm driving the car. I get back to the house. So I'm taking her with me. We're walking down, and there's like a ladder that goes up to like a shed roof to then the real roof to then climb up the roof. So she's there standing blindfolded, and I'm looking at
And
her
sweating,
and
probably.
looking at the roof, and I'm like, how in the hell am I about to do this? So for like 30 seconds, I'm just standing there. I grab a ladder, pull her up. I basically push her up the ladder. I'm like, all right, don't worry. Just take a step here, make a left there.
Honey, if this is an owl thing, I'm going to kill you.
She finally makes it up. I make it up. I walk her up and down, and then she takes off the blindfold. We're on the roof or whatever. It was an incredible night. Everything was great. Oh, my God, it's incredible. You know, all these years later, we're married. We're going to have a kid. Everything was great. But the moment she takes a bad step on that roof or a shingle comes off and she flies off the roof and something happens to her, not
Yeah,
smart.
you got a pregnant wife that you're greeting an owl with, and she's in a wheelchair because you paralyzed
Yeah.
her.
17 years earlier,
Yeah,
15 years
exactly.
earlier.
How'd you get the food up? Was
I
it
had-
before or after her?
It was after, so I sat her down, and then I went back down, and then I went back up again.
Just
and then-
left her on the roof by
Yes.
herself. All right, you took the blindfold
no,
off.
No,
though.
she was blindfolded
Oh,
still.
my
Still
goodness.
blindfolded.
I said, don't move. Literally, please do not
You
move.
married a saint.
Does she like you?
Very much so, I think.
I has to trust them to all this.
I enjoy that that Amin identified Tony as you look like you somebody who can have a story here as having done something extraordinarily dumb. The only thing that I could think of is that outside of Bayside many years ago, I ended up having taken a gondola to an island that they put out food for you and stuff, and it's dark at night. You're near water, and there was so much movement in those trees that made me realize this romantic picnic that we're having in the dark is rat infested.
Oh, no!
Like there's just a staggering amount of movement in these trees that is totally unacceptable. That'll kill. Put it on the poll, Juju. Will rats kill the romance very quickly on whatever it is you were trying
That is disgusting.
to achieve? Yes, but I don't. I mean it. Doesn't seem like a dumb idea on the front end. It just
It never does, Dan.
It became well. Yours
That's the
does.
issue.
No, but yours does though. If
I had a couple people try to walk me off that one, and I was like, nope.
Blindfolded or
Doing
no?
it.
blindfolded on ladder seems like something that's
Wait,
not going to work.
You workshop this with other people?
Yo, of course. How do you think I got the table up there?
He was 17 years old.
Workshopped it. I was like, guys, this is a big idea, right? They're like, I don't know. I was like, I'm doing it.
I mean, mine, I do have one. It was more of a money spending thing. So I've only really dated two people in my life. It's my ex-husband and my current partner. And Anthony, when we were first hanging out, wasn't really sure he could date guys. Like, he knew he was into guys, but he really didn't know if he could date guys. So he sort of ruled me out as dating. And I was like, okay, whatever. And so for my 40th birthday, I was like, I got to do something. I'm divorced now. I want to have some fun. I'm going to Vegas. I'd never been to Vegas. And I wanted to go all out. I wanted to go to EDC, which is the Electric Daisy Carnival. So it's an EDM festival. And I was like, you know what? I'm taking you. I'm paying for everything. And just to level things out, not to make it weird, I'm taking my buddy Tony, too. It's just a guy's thing. And really, I was just trying to impress one of them. It
was a good trip.
And the crazy part about this is me never having been to Vegas was the itinerary that I put together. I don't know of partiers, like professional party people, who could have accomplished the itinerary I put together. We're talking pool party in the day, EDC at night, back to another pool party in the day, EDC at night, just back to back to back.
2
for like
days?
5 straight days.
5 days of 2 days
that's
in Vegas.
unhealthy.
4
That's
straight, and then I picked up a 5th day at the tail end, and holy crap, was that a mistake. Like, I'm recovering from that to this day.
Yeah, this harkens back to, do you need a vacation sometimes after a vacation? Are they always relaxing? And no, the first place that I went is music festival vacations are never relaxing. The gauntlet that you just laid out seems unholy.
I kept the itinerary just to show people in the future because it was wild and made it to all of them except one pool party.
Music festival is rampant enough. Vegas on top of that is excessive.
We've been together for 7 years since.
I'm not saying it didn't work out. Clearly, all of these stories. Well, mine doesn't end in anything other than a horrible memory of a rat
did
situation.
she know?
Yeah, it became very obvious.
Yeah, occasionally she'll walk past a TV that's on mute on highly questionable and be like, I think that guy took me on the worst date that I've ever been
That's
on.
Rat Boy.
Rat guy.
Remember Jamel Hill said, like, in her group text with her friends, every dude that they've dated has a nickname. There's Mattress Guy or whatever.
Glazed donut is one of them, yes.
You're a rat guy in some group chat somewhere.
Yeah, I mean, it was such a good idea on the front end, but when you asked me, did she know? There was no not knowing. I mean, it was noisy. It was dark, and I can tell that's too much movement. What is that? I thought it was owls initially.
Should have called me.
I'm not an owlologist. What do I know?
Mike seems like he's got one. You got a good one.
I just had the LFO lip syncing thing. I've been with Cynthia for a very long time, outside of like a brief moment in my 20s when I was single. What, I dropped a beer around somebody and been like, well, that's it. See ya.
Did Cynthia make you do that? Or did you do it like you think, oh, she's going to like this?
What, the lip syncing
Yeah.
thing? No, I wasn't with Cynthia that early
okay.
on. No, this was a
So
different girl.
you married a saint.
Yeah.
It saved you from that life of
Yeah.
just
Thank God
absolute
cell phones
buffoonery.
weren't around back then. I'd never survived that.
When you talk about dropping a drink, I do remember. This is so funny. It's not a date, but it's hugely embarrassing, and it's a memory that has scars on it. So, there was a woman on campus who I noticed her many different places and beautiful, and I end up on an elevator with just her, and so now I've got 9 floors to do whatever it is that I'm going to do.
Spit some game, baby.
Straight out of a
to
movie.
impress her.
Elevator
Well,
pitch.
wait till you see how this ends. Thank you. Yes, it's an elevator pitch, and wait till you see what happens here. So I'm a little nervous on the front end, and just instinctively, I look at my watch just sort of nervously, right? Just forgetting I've got a soda in it. In my hands, like
no.
Yes, and so I look at my watch, and now I've just poured soda on my feet, like right in front of her, while I'm thinking about. No, it gets worse. No.
Oh, you're soda guy in that group
No,
chat.
it gets worse. It gets worse. Now I'm in a hurry to get off the elevator, which stops a little short, and I'm in such a hurry that I trip on my way out and throw the soda against the opposite elevator door and tripping out the door.
Started watching Rounders last night. I'm just gonna turn into my dad, where my dad watched movies from the 50s. I'm just gonna be watching movies from the 90s because that's when movies were their best. Rounders, what a film.
Dude, I had that same exact idea because we were listening to music as we were packing up the house because we were moving, and we were listening to 80s music, and it was like, babe, you know that this is like listening to music from the 40s in the 80s, right? Like, this is insane.
It's wild when people do that. Whenever I see, like, we're actually closer, to the, Cuban Missile Crisis than we are to blah, blah, blah. That stuff always freaks me out. But yeah, it finally washed upon me because I just thought I was some dude that was appreciating nostalgia. But no, I'm slowly turning into that creepy old dad that just watched Turner Classic Movies the entire time when I fire up Rounders. And I'm like, isn't this great? And it's 30 years old.
I can't believe that some of the movies like that I like, when I attach 30 years to them, Pulp Fiction just turned 30,
Yeah.
and I just can't believe stuff like that.
Like, Rounders came out in 98, so we're not quite there yet. But the reason why I had it on my brain was, like, Matt Damon just mentioned in an interview, he's like, that's actually a sequel we've been talking about doing, revisiting these characters. Wouldn't it be interesting, especially Worm, wouldn't it be interesting to see their characters now, how the sport has changed, how poker has changed, and how everything around it has changed. It'd be an interesting story to revisit, and it got me wanting to watch it, and so far so good.
I heard you guys talking about Beetlejuice 2 the other day. And
Beetlejuice. I'm not going to say it again, but I don't think it's called Beetlejuice 2. I think
No, it's Beetlejuice.
Dan, let me tell you something. When you go to the movie theater you think, where they got all the show times, like this movie, you think they're going to say Beetlejuice, whatever the name is, or is it just going to say Beetlejuice 2, 10 o'clock, 2 o'clock? That's how they do it. That's how I go. I go off the movie theater board. If it's Beetlejuice 2, it's Beetlejuice 2. We're not here for your cute little titles. But my question was, how do you guys feel about sequels, not reboots, but sequels that happen like 30 years later?
Like Twister?
Like Twister. The other one I think about a lot is Wall Street, Money Never Sleeps.
Yeah. Is that a standalone sequel? Because I think you need to, since you have characters held over from the first one, you need to know Gordon Gekko, right?
Yeah. No, it's an actual sequel. Gordon Gekko gets out of prison. And
I like that. I think there are some interesting stories to be told that are probably sometimes made better by time changing things. Twister's standalone sequels, that kind of gets... Reboot. That's weird because there's like one or two anchors to the previous one. That feels like a reboot to me.
I almost got caught watching a movie called The Twisters. I think it was on Apple TV, and I got like a minute in, and I was like, wait a second, this is not that movie.
That's not Helen Hunt.
Oh, Dano! Thursday Thunder time, and it is sponsored by DraftKings. Stay tuned because you'll hear more about DraftKings and all it has to offer throughout the show. DraftKings, the crown is yours.
Oh yeah.
Juju Gotti cooked up, as usual, the Thursday Thunder for this week, and we'll give it to you quick. First leg, Noah Lyles, winner of the 200-meter race that's going on today at 2:30. I'm trying to do the math on that. Is that 14:30?
It would be
Attaboy, here we go.
Juju Gotti was hurting because Noah Lyles sabotaged his last three-leg parlay. He got 2 out of 3, and then Noah Lyles loses in a qualifier to a Japanese guy with a faux hawk.
It happens to all of us. Over to the second leg of the parlay.
Especially.
Yeah, exactly.
Around 2008 for me.
Bogdan Bogdanovic over 16.5 points today in the Serbia versus U.S. game at 3 o'clock, which is 15 o'clock. Did we say 15 o'clock?
Quarter after 15.
1500.
1500. Okay. And in the 1500 game, Serbia-U.S.
What time is that? That's 3 o'clock?
3 o'clock.
15.
15 o'clock. Over 7.5 assists for LeBron James. So Noah Lyles, winner of the men's 200-meter. Bogdan Bogdanovic over 16.5 points. And LeBron James the King, 7.5 over assists.
We're going to do something here with the post game that Izzy cooked up for us that celebrates the departed Billy Beane. I told you about him yesterday, not the Oakland A's GM that Chris Russo accidentally eulogized, but a baseball pioneer who I told you, the audience, and Izzy knows this, I've always associated with youth. That person has always looked incredibly young to me, no matter what his age was, because he took such good care of himself. So we're going to do that in the postgame. But before we do that, I did want to circle back around and talk about the loud mess that was made yesterday with Colorado fans, because I was inundated with a lot of this yesterday. LeBatard is such a troll for giving this guy a platform for his made-up story. And I don't know what's true here, and I do believe that we grilled the journalist skeptically about his reporting, and it was only because Athlon Sports is not in the business of breaking news, and this story would have been a seismic one if it had been reported by an outlet that people trusted or believed in. But the number of people, and I'm glad we have Izzy here as a trained journalist, the number of people who now think that things can be published because of what social media is, that are just made up, that things don't have to be lawyered, that things don't have to be edited, that there's not a process and rules to the reporting of things, reminds me of a conversation that I've had for the better part of 15 years that is disappointing to me with people who care about journalism the way I do, when I say flatly, we've lost. The game is over We've lost. It's been undercut. People don't understand how it is that journalists come by their credibility. It's because there's a rule and systems in place to make sure that we don't get sued. Even when I'm interviewing that guy yesterday, I have to make sure with allegedly and reportedly that I am not taking the burden of responsibility of me reporting that there are guns and chaos in Deion's locker room, because Deion can also sue me if I lend credence to a report that hasn't been vetted. And Izzy, I just want to talk to you because people don't care about all of this minutia. They don't care about journalism at all. Mainstream media at this point might as well be a slur. Mainstream media, the phrase, might as well be a slur because people don't believe that journalists have to do some responsible things to get things in print. And I just find it really disappointing that college football fans or sports fans think that journalists are routinely out here making things up as if that's not something that has consequences.
And I felt bad for the writer yesterday when I was listening to it for a couple of reasons. You know, one, I think and you were sort of drilling him on this, like you just said. And that in itself made me think, wow, Dan really needs to make sure that his listeners know that this person is a real journalist. And the reason that I felt bad for him is because back in the day, if you said, yes, I talked to the players, they told me this, okay, we're good. Whether or not you think they have some sort of axe to grind, or maybe they weren't telling the story exactly true because they're not there anymore, whatever. If you talked to a player, you report what that player said, if they gave you the permission to, whether they use their name or not. That, to me, is perfectly fair journalism, especially if you keep digging and you back it up and there's other people corroborating. And so it made me feel bad for him that he had to explain just sort of the basic rules of, yes, I talked to people, they gave me information, I checked on it, I reported it. The idea that other entities are not following up on this, well, if they haven't done work on it, it's a lot of work to start from scratch. And you've got probably a lot of people now in the defensive mode, right? Even those same players who came out and said things, even if they're in other schools, are now focusing on their school. They're focusing on their football. And they're probably only going to want to do that once. They don't want to get back in that mix. They don't want to be called a snitch and all this stuff. So I feel terrible for the writer, because if it is true, and I believe it to be true, I have no reason to believe it not to be true, then he's getting the short end of the stick here by just people who are judging journalism in general. And it's, as you said, it's what has been done to journalism over the last, let's say, 8 years.
Do you remember years and years ago, Stephen A. Smith came out with a report when Kevin Durant was still in Oklahoma that he's going to be a Laker, he wants to be a Laker, something like that. And Kevin Durant said Stephen A. Smith made it up. Like, you stop making stuff up. And Stephen A. had this very, you don't want to make an enemy out of me, right? Like, that whole thing, I remember explaining it to my friends at the time. I said, there's a difference between saying you're wrong, your sources are wrong, your reporting is incorrect, you need better sources, and you made it up, right? And I think at that point, this was a pre, Donald Trump presidency America. It was easy for people to understand, like, oh, okay. Now, because ever since Trump created this term fake news, there is a very strong reaction from people that if I hear something reported that is contrary to my beliefs or something that I like, it's not real. It was just made up. Like, that's become the instant reaction.
That's where I find the reaction to it curious, not surprising, because we've been living here in this reality, and we're only invoking politics because someone mainstream gave license to, like, if there's a story I don't like, let me just call it fake, and this is a move now with a response to news. I think that, yes, there's scrutiny that's applied in that what's the agenda that these players that have obviously left, what's their axe to grind? You can ask all those questions. Yeah. To me, like, you called it a seismic thing. I think if you're a Colorado fan, like, that's really where you attack this thing, is like, okay, these players left. You don't mean to tell me there aren't fights in a lot of locker rooms?
It's not that big of a deal. If you were to tell me this just based on Deion's reputation and what he was going to bring to Colorado, I'd say, okay, that's probably going to happen there.
No, there's some bad things, especially with the guns. I think that stuff needs to be addressed, and I think they've worked to address that. Coach Prime has been strong in his defense there. But if you're a Colorado fan, like, for your default to be like, this is fake, to not be like, this is a little blown out of proportion
Right.
because it's us, because we have this spot. Like
But
usually,
it's eminently
like
believable.
yeah, like that's usually as a persecuted Miami fan, like that's usually my pivot.
Just the idea that your first off ramp it's incorrect. It's literally he made it like this dude was sitting like I haven't blown up yet. What could I
The
I
combination,
know.
though, is interesting to me. The combination of you have this over here where people don't believe in the mainstream media, and then you have the general zealotry that you find around college sports or sports in general. When Mike says Miami fans have a persecution complex, yes, they do, but they were persecuted as well. Colorado fans may have a persecution complex, but they've also felt persecuted, like legitimately persecuted, because of how outsized the attention around their program is.
And I get that, but they have a charmed existence too. They're a media, I would say more than anything, they're a media darling. Like, we'll see. If they don't have success, I can see this unraveling because Coach Prime. And because of all those other factors that go into this, fair and unfair, like I could see this going really sideways if they don't have success. But I would say generally it's a charmed existence. You have people giving you credit and broadcasting from your campus because they love this story.
You say charmed existence, but charmed existences generally aren't this polarizing.